Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday, the 14th day of June, 2016. I'm your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be live here for the next 4 hours. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history that took place Saturday night. We've learned a lot more about this. I've studied Islam. I've studied the jihadist. I've studied the Wahhabist. And the more Wahhabist you get, the more you're into having sex with little boys. And the more you're also into going to gay nightclubs. And so I said, this is latent homosexual behavior. This is a guy obsessed with it, probably into it, who then is guilty about it. So he decides to run his jihad that he's going to launch for ISIS against the gay nightclub, which is exactly what we now learn. He frequented the place. He was there quite a bit and hung out with the folks there. And this is just all part of the schizophrenia of Islam, where it talks about having sex with young boys and how that's okay and young girls. But if an adult does it, you've got to be killed. I mean, it should be the opposite. You go after kids, that's when you have the problem. Because they don't have the age of consent. See, that's how it is in the West. Everything is ass backwards. Orlando shooter Omar Mateen was a regular at the Pulse nightclub. Customers had seen Killer there before, and several reports getting messages from him on gay dating apps. So he's out there going around the different apps online, reportedly, and it just all fits the MO. And he's got this family, this father, going on the internet saying kill the gays, and you've got his imam saying it. And none of that is really in the news. It's all how gun owners are evil. It's all how gun owners are bad. It's all how we have to pay. In fact, Hillary Clinton has said it's the internet which she wants to censor that's the problem, and guns. And the FBI has come out and said he was radicalized on the internet. Okay, he traveled to Saudi Arabia repeatedly. That's where he actually went to get the final training. But the idea that, the man used a car to run people over. He used the highway. He used a car. I saw the different Democrat-run website headlines where, see the gun that committed the crime. No, a gun didn't commit the crime. And I know our audience knows that, but Obama's not ruling out coming after the Second Amendment with more executive action. Hillary says she wants to ban the semi-autos. This is incredible. When she's the lady, it came out yesterday, who ordered the State Department not to investigate his mosque years ago when she was still in the State Department. And it just fits the same MO over and over and over again, where they are protecting these people. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, came out yesterday and said, look, we really have a stupid president. We have a moron president. He said, we're led by a fool, to give you the actual quote. And he went on to say, or there's something else, he knows exactly what he's doing. And the Washington Post came out and said that he was implying that Obama was behind it. No, he implied that Obama knows this stuff's going to happen, is going to take our guns once the attacks start. That isn't saying Obama's running it, but he is opening the door up and bringing the people in, which is pretty much the same thing. So this is a case of Trump having his cake and eating it too, and really dragging the media through the mud. I personally love it, where he puts it out there. They say what he really wants to say for him. He pulls back, doesn't get the heat, but still gets the truth out. A master tactician. The centipede is an incredible predator of other predators and injects its poison with twin fangs. All right, ladies, there's an internet meme, if you don't know, that likens him to the centipede. Maybe we should play some of that today. That always cheers Buckley up when we're out at brunch or something with the kids, and we sit there and watch Donald Trump videos together. All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Dr. Steve Pieczenik, who the Jack Ryan character in Patriot Games is loosely based on, co-author of many of Tom Clancy's books, will be joining us. He, of course, is a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, a graduate of Harvard and MIT, and was the psych warfare head that way back at the Camp David Accords with the only successful peace treaty with the Muslims. And, of course, he's one of the founding members of Delta Force. The list just goes on and on. He comes on every few months here. He's going to give us his breakdown on the Orlando event. Now, I wanted to get him on the last few months about a book he wrote about Europe escaping the Holocaust and coming finally to the United States via Cuba and then Canada. And it goes through all the things that his mother went through. I've now read the book online. It's amazing. But he, instead of really getting to that, wants to cover Orlando, so that's fine. But it's a really interesting perspective of Pechenik because, I mean, he's somebody who actually had family die in the Holocaust. There are a lot of folks out there that claim they did, kind of like folks claiming they have cancer to raise money on the internet or whatever. And a lot of times it turns out it's not true. But in Pechenik's case, it is true. He has a very interesting perspective on how some of the Jewish leadership blocked Jews getting out of Europe unless they paid money to the Jewish leadership to be able to get out of the country. So he can really break down the truly sickening underbelly of the Jewish mafia and what it basically did to his family and many others. And that's not really the full scope of the book, but you need to understand that went on. And that was very real. And I don't bring that out to demonize Jews, but criticism of Jewish mafia or Jewish organizations is not anti-Semitism. So the Jewish mafia has hidden behind that for a long time and gotten away with a lot of its activities. And, of course, the Jewish mafia founded the ADL in 1913. You can look that up for yourself as well. So I'm going to expose the Saudi mafia, the Chinese communist mafia, elements of the Jewish mafia. I'm going to expose the socialist German mafia, the socialist French mafia. I'm going to expose the globalists here in this country. I'm just going to expose organized crime across the board. I'm going to expose the Russian mafia, the Japanese mafia, the Mexican mafia. I'm going to go after Mecha and La Raza. I'm going to go after all these groups that operate the same. You see, I'm with the Patriot Mafia. And you can say the Patriot family, but see, it's an idea, and anyone can be a member of it. It transcends how these other mafias base their operations. Because if they make it about race or religion, they don't have to then actually deliver anything to their family. They can just all make it about we're in a group, and they end up abusing and feeding on their own group. 9 times out of 10, your own, quote, mafia is your worst nightmare. I want a unified culture on the Bill of Rights, Constitution, religious freedom, family freedom, incredibly low taxes, based on stewardship, based on ingenuity, based on rugged individualism, based on inventiveness, based on exploration, based on trailblazing, based on free association. It's called the Renaissance. I'm into it. And America is the great flower of that. But because we were so successful, we got infested with organized crime, all battling with each other for full control. And they've run the nation into the ground, and we're going to be exposing it big time. Got a call last night from Jesse Ventura at about 5 o'clock. I'd gone early yesterday and to be with my children, and he called me, and he said, yeah, I may come on your show first tomorrow and break down the fact that my case that I won in the federal court for defamation against Chris Kyle, the sniper, America's most deadly sniper, Navy SEAL. But then he called this morning and he said, no, I'm going to hold back. My lawyer wants me to hold back, but I'll come on your show first as soon as I decide to speak. But he told me some stuff and said, but you're welcome to repeat this on air or put it in an article. And I'll just say this. He's completely blown away because the federal overturn of his case had over 60 major corporations sign on to a lawsuit. Big media, the New York Times, CNN, you name it, News Corp, saying we want to be able to lie. And we don't want there to be, when we're found guilty of lying, we don't want there to be any basically monetary payment for it. And that's actually what the federal court is saying, is that the media will be able to lie, and even if you win a case, there basically won't be any money. And, of course, Ventura spent over $1.5 million on the suit, most of the money he has. And that's what he won. And the reason they overturned it, they said, was the jury was allowed to know that Ventura was not suing the family and that there was insurance and that the widow had made over $45 million as of trial time on the book itself, and that the couple $1 million that Ventura was going to get just for basically his court costs and getting his name back was going to be paid by an insurance company. And Ventura was only able to bring that up in trial. They have the transcripts because they brought it up. We're like, this poor widow, he's suing her. He wants to make her, basically bankrupt. And so Ventura's lawyers could come in, who were some of the best in the country, and go, oh, actually, she's gotten $40+ million off the book, tens of millions off the movie, and she doesn't even pay this. She keeps the money. The insurance company pays it. The publisher on the book alone had $20 million in coverage. Ventura was seeking $1.5 million. Going shooting super low for what they'd spent on the trial where they fought him for 2 years, even getting it to court. So instead, Ventura trying to get his name back. And listen, I don't think Chris Kyle was a bad guy. People I know that know him say that the movie's pretty accurate. I think the guy was a patriot. I don't know how he got convinced or confused to say he beat up Ventura. Ventura didn't do it, has the witnesses, would never say things like that he's glad Navy SEALs are dying. It was meant to destroy his name. And as soon as Chris Kyle's story started degenerating, magically somebody killed him up in Dallas at a shooting range, if you really believe that. And Kraft, or people dressed in Kraft uniforms, were at the Boston bombing. Probably there running security. Guys with black backpacks and tan wearing Punisher hats. We began to investigate that, not saying they were involved, but saying Obama clearly was protecting the bombers or whoever they were connected to. It turned out one of the brothers was on CIA payroll. That came out in the Boston Globe. It was on local Boston radio that morning that they were running a drill of a bombing. I don't know exactly what happened, but there's a cover-up. Is it to cover up a Saudi connection? I don't know, but there's something going on there. The media misrepresents it and says that, I say that Chris Kyle did it. That's not what we ever said. We just said that's how Kraft International dresses. They wear tan, boots, pants, jackets, black backpacks, and Punisher hats. He popularized that. Now, it could have been somebody else. We just said, wow, that's a Kraft International contractor outfit. Boom, he's dead right after that. Okay, I mean, it's like Pat Tillman. I've talked to his brother. Pat Tillman was going to come out about government growing the opium, how we were working and not stopping the Taliban and al-Qaeda, which later all came out. They killed him, and the Army coroner, who was a colonel, would not lie in the autopsy and said he was murdered. He was executed. They shot him. He fell behind a rock, his own unit. He said, what are you doing? It's me. It's me. He jumped up going, what is your effing problem? They shot him again and then came up and did a single burst, 3 shots right across the front of the face. At feet away, powder burns, read the autopsy. They shot him, didn't take him down because of body armor, crept up on him and killed him deader than a hammer. Private Lynch was going to be the feminist icon of how the men cowered in fear, but she defeated them all. None of it was true. Her own unit started speaking out. They killed 4 of them in 1 week. People be having a barbecue at their house, and a guy in a black uniform and a mask would pop up and double tap him in the head at 50 yards and then pop back down. Or you'd get pulled over and then be found dead in a puddle of water. And then Lynch came out and said, it's all fake, it's all fake. I was told to lie. Jerry Bruckheimer was producing it. It was all, Jerry Bruckheimer. Now, I don't bring all this out because I'm against our military. I bring all this out because I'm against it being used in these ways and these type of propaganda pieces. So I don't know what happened with Chris Kyle, okay? And I'm not even choosing sides here. I know Jesse Ventura. I'm the one that gave him the news. They waited until he drove in his RV to Mexico to announce all this. And he said, you're joking, Alex. That's not true. Come on. And then I told him, he was blown away. And he spent all this time. And look, I disagree with Ventura on a lot of his politics. But the guy's for real. He means well. And they tried to destroy his good name so he couldn't run for president. That's what all this was about. Kyle got roped in. I guarantee you, News Corps talked him into putting that section in the book as a psyop. And either that or the Boston bombing is the reason he was executed. I don't buy this story that some guy with PTSD out at the shooting range, did this and all the rest of it. I mean, give me a break. So I'm done talking about that because we got so much news on the situation in Orlando. Hillary saying she's coming after our guns, all the rest of it. Briefly, I'm going to do my first ever